Yo, what the hell's up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching Keeper. The relationship I have with Osgood Perkins and his filmography is a very interesting one to say the least. I hopped on with I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House and loved that movie. I even stayed on the hype train through Gretel and Hansel, which I actually really enjoyed even though it was a very blatantly flawed film. Then seemingly everyone hopped on the hype train for Longlegs, which I personally did not really care that much for, even though it got so much hype and acclaim in the horror community. I personally thought that his other films, including The Monkey earlier this year, were much better films than Longlegs, so clearly me and general audiences not on the same page in terms of this guy's filmography. So when I see the teaser trailer for this film and it looks incredibly intriguing, pair that with a few reviews that crept into my algorithm even though I desperately try and avoid that before I see a film, and those reviews are not so positive, I oddly enough get even more excited about seeing this movie because if history's been any indication, there might be hope here. This movie was a bit of a frustrating watch for me because all of the strengths pretty much perpetually came with an asterisk, like the fantastic cinematography that I did really enjoy, but also at the same time got a lot of experimental film work happening that got a little too self-indulgent, especially with a lot of the layering and cross dissolves. There was one solid, fantastic acting performance, but the rest of them were pretty disposable and I thought actually pretty poor. Simultaneously, we also have some very good visual storytelling that I enjoyed, while right next to it, the very next minute, we'll get a lot of exposition and convenience. We've got some very cool creature design and makeup that I really enjoyed, but also at the same time, ultimately, I thought that their inclusion to begin with was a bit of a stretch because it really didn't fit thematically with the film that's constructed around them. And yeah, I'm sure if you take this movie and look at it through the lens of it being a film, and film being a medium of artwork, someone's gonna try and spoon feed you some bullshit to explain that it actually does fit within the themes and narrative of this film after all, but I'm just not buying it. I'm all for a metaphorical film. I love that stuff, but it has to work. I really don't think that this one does, regardless what you tell me. I was very intrigued throughout the course of this very slow burning film, and I was just patient while it progressed, and I was just curious what it was going to build towards, and then ultimately it does, and I'm like, oh, you're doing that? Didn't see that coming. And no, not in a good way. This film actually had the opposite effect on me that similar metaphorical films will have. I'll exit the theater, I'll get in my car, I'll sit, I won't even listen to any music or anything, and I'll just think and reflect on the film and try and process the pieces that were presented to me to look at the film in a whole new light. Normally when I do that with a movie, I tend to respect the film even more. The more I think on it, the more I process the methodical delivery and approach, I usually respect the film more. But this film, the more I sat on it and think about it, the more I really don't think it worked. Which is all the more frustrating when I think back on that first teaser trailer that I saw that looked like it was going to explore a lot of very interesting themes like relationships, monogamy, whatever. And most of the film does indeed explore these themes, but by the end of the runtime, it just kind of says, nah, these themes. All in all, I would liken this movie to a cake recipe, just because the ingredients are all fantastic and good things individually, sugar, chocolate, corn syrup, fruit, all the good and sweet stuff, but that doesn't mean when you toss it all together and put it in the oven, the thing you're taking out doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, well, as Minka so eloquently puts it in this movie, a cake. Being tongue-in-cheek, of course, ultimately this isn't a bad movie per se. There are a lot of strong attributes about it, but ultimately I think that it ended up collapsing under the weight of its own ambitions, especially when some of those key load-bearing components were so weak. And I will always advocate for films swinging for the fences and doing something new, different, and weird. And Osgood Perkins is always good for that kind of a film, even if sometimes, or at least in my case, most of the time, it doesn't work. But that is just me. What do you think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure you're following this page to stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe. Thanks for checking in.